I lost 3.5 seconds just because I wasn't on the racing line. This is the first episode of SimRacing for beginners, and today I'm going to show you why the racing line matters and how to actually get good at it. We're here on Maggione Circuit in Italy. We're here with the BMW 235i, something like that, and I'm doing a comparison between these two cars, or the same cars, but the one on the top, the video on the top, is following the racing line. One on the bottom is not. And you can just see the difference. Just look at the little speedo at the top above the car, and you'll see, just look at the sheer difference in between corners. Now, as you come to the end of the lap, you can see the huge gap in between the cars. Over the course of the entire lap, you can see that not following racing can get you so much slower. In fact, like I said in the start, 3.5 seconds slower. As you can see, fastest car sets a 120.948, and the slow car sets a 123.982. All right, we're here on Google Slides here, and I want to show the difference between a wide racing line. So, not even wide, a racing line where you're not taking the racing line and you're going all across this space in the wrong areas. And then the difference between a good line and a bad line. All right, now that we've got the size difference showing, you can see, look at all that extra room that you'd be leaving on the inside because you're not taking the apex, and the apex is the inner part of the corner. That is the goal. When we're coming in from the racing line, we are going from we're trying to go as wide as possible. Let's say there's curbs here. There's curbs. We are on top of the curves. We are taking our car, and our goal is to get the car braking and turning in. So around this optimal line that's right here. This is the optimal line. We want to be right here. And then when we come out, we're going wide again to maximize our traction. And now with this line, we are losing time. As you saw in the comparison, you can see that since we're covering more distance, and also, well, I'll explain this in a later lesson, but I'll give a little mini lesson. The car understeers when we go on this line because we end up, our engine, like our miles per hours are faster, but since we aren't slowing down, we're like in the example, I was going from here, and then I would brake here, and then I'd go around the apex. Of course, we never would do that in a real race. That's like the exact opposite of what you'd want to do. And when you go around here, you understeer because you slowed the car down, but you're not using the optimal line. When you have the optimal line, going wide, 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 and then you slow down and you use the rotation from the brakes, and you get straight up into here, and then you get a good exit on the out. You're maximizing the traction at all possible uh, times. Now, ideally, in a perfect world where you have infinite downforce, infinite grip, you'd stay right here, go through here, stay on this side. But we don't have infinite grip, so we need to maximize the grip when we need it the most. And we need the grip the most right here. So that's why we're going wide, and then maximizing the grip. So at here we're carrying the most speed possible. Now sometimes what happens is that we have double apexes. Now these are a bit more advanced. I won't be going super in depth on that. That'll be in a future video where I go in depth into them and really explain how to get the most out of them. But if you like, maybe if you watch a track guide, I feel like a corner like, I can't think of a corner where you need a double apex right now, but uh when you double apex, it's because first of all, it's two corners like this. It's two corners, and we need to get the apex at each one of them. But you need to sacrifice the first corner. So a lot of times you'll see them people do is to maximize the speed you can carry into this corner. You run a little bit wide. You run a little bit wide, not completely wide, but like you'll be braking here. You brake, 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 brake. You come in here, and then you start braking again. So the goal is, this is a horribly drawn line, but the goal is you come out around here, you start braking, And then this corner you take with the proper racing line, you get as close as possible, and then you're able to get a good exit out of it. And of course, same logic applies with the circles. You don't want to be going super wide ever. This corner you go a little bit with a little bit more width, but it's never too much to the point where you're literally like on the curbs here and not turning in. All right, now with this circle, you can kind of see the racing line come into play here. As you can see, same formula. We come here so we can get the close apex. So we run. This is obviously not accurate because it's a circle, but you run wide here. You get onto this portion here. This portion is super important. This is when you're running on the grip limit of the tires. You're going super fast. You're turning and you're also braking, preparing for the next corner. So yeah, it's a double apex. It's not super complicated, but you need some advanced techniques to go really fast in this. All right, now let's go through a couple of corners so I can show you guys what the racing line looks like in reality and how to actually think about it. All right, now we're here back on track. I mean, this is the same replay. So we're going to replay through the lap that we used for the comparison. And I'm going to show you guys the racing line in person and how it actually plays out in real life. Yeah, real life, I guess. All right, right here we start braking, and this corner actually is a double apex. Actually, I'll go a little bit forward. So you see the same technique here that I showed in the previous thing. We have our two apexes. This is our first apex. Then our second apex is a little bit further. I'll go forward just a little bit. Now, oh wow, the line moves. I'm stupid. Wow. Okay, so this with our first apex, it was around here. And now our second apex, this is the one that we actually take. So you can see I'm actually leaving some room here so I can carry my speed through here. You can also see the rubbered inline. This is a great thing to look at when you're trying to learn a track. There's always going to be rubber on the track, especially in simulators. There's going to be rubber on the track. In real life, maybe not, but in sim racing, there's always going to be a rubbered line. This is a good little guide to show you where the racing line is. Anyways, now our second apex, our actual apex, is around here, somewhere here, not there. This is our apex. So now we'll go through this, see what apex where we did. And now what we do here is when you're trying to get the most out of the car, when you slam on the throttle, which is what you can do in this car because it has traction control, you slam on the throttle, what happens is the car's not really gonna want to steer. If it steers, it's gonna oversteer, which basically, if you guys like drifting, that's what oversteer is. So these tires right here, you're gonna exceed their budget. You're gonna exceed the rear tires budget, and they're gonna exchange ends here, and you're gonna be spinning around. So you have to be careful here. But since this car has traction control, it's fine. We're this car, for some reason, it understeers. This is a common thing with the road cars that are racing, uh, which is this car. It does that. So I'm gonna accelerate now, and I'm gonna run out wide to here onto these curbs. We need to really use the curbs. Curbs are a really important thing to use. Super important. Anyways, now we'll play it through. Uh, Yeah, we run out. All right, I'm back. I had a little mishap. I clicked this button right here. I don't know why they make it like this, but when you click this button, it sends you back all the way to the start of the replay. But yeah, we run out wide here. I actually could have gone a little bit faster because I didn't use all of the track. So our goal is normally is to really minimize the amount of distance between you and the edge of the track. We always want to be right there on the edge of the track. I did a bad job here, pretty much. Coming into this corner, I think this is another double apex. I don't know how I couldn't think of any examples. You're gonna see the same line through here. We're gonna, go around. Again, I'm leaving too much room here. I need to work on some track usage. But yeah, we're gonna run wide here again. Gonna run wide across and then come back for our apex. Yeah, just same thing as you can see. Go wide. In fact, actually, that wasn't a double apex. My bad. Yeah, so now we're going to this corner, which is a chicane. And again, of course, same thing. We have our apex here, but this corner is a little bit important because as you can see, there's another corner there in the edge. So you have to hit the apex on this corner, and then you have to get the apex on that corner. And now this is where you lose a lot of time if you don't take the racing line. Because if you don't take the racing line here, you don't take this. You run wide, and now you're screwed up for the next corner because you're on the all the way on the inside, and you need to obviously be wide to get the most out of the tires. So I'll show you guys that uh, after this. As you can see here, if we're all the way over here on this side, we would not have the width that we need to attack this angle because you need a, we want to open up the corner as much as we can. It allows us to turn less and still get more out of it. Yeah, so this is, if you go back to the comparison lap, you'll see I was all the way on the inside here. In technical racetracks, in hard, difficult racetracks, the corners build on each other. And this is why racing line is so important. And that's how racing line can get really advanced. It's some at the basic level, it's just stay on the left side of the track, and then when it's a right turn, stay on the right side of the track when it's a left turn, and then get in nice and close. But then technical corners like this can make differences when you don't take a good racing line. I was thinking about skipping over this corner right here, but I think I took this corner really well, and I want to show you guys what it like almost perfect racing line looks. This is a really basic corner, no nothing on it. It goes into a straight, so you don't have to do anything different. So you can see here, using like leaving it maybe a foot or two of room, but we're already turning in at this point, so it's not really like, oh, he's not using all the track. I'm using the track. I'm turning in now, and this corner it leads to a straight. This is like the only straight on the entire track, so it's really important for you to maximize everything you get out of it. All right, here we get literally we're on the curb. We're using as much as we can. If we went any further, I mean, we could go like an inch further, but if we went any further, we'd probably end up taking this curb and then running wide into the wall. That's kind of the job of this curb. But yeah, we take this. Now we're setting up the next straight perfectly because now at this point I'm already full throttle because I've set myself up perfectly to be able to rotate the car and still stay on full throttle for the straight up ahead. And here on the exit too, we're on the curb. We could have used a little bit more, which means, yeah, we could have carried a little bit more speed, but it's still, that's really nice for us that we get this. And that's like a perfect racing line, almost like very little difference from like how a pro would take it. All right, that'll be it for the track guide kind of thing, the overview. All right, a quick little quiz here. Which racing line is the best option? Put your answer down in the comments. Is it A, B, or C? Yeah, hopefully you guys kind of got an understanding of the racing line. This was a this video took some effort, and I'd like if you guys subscribe now, and yeah, see you in the next video.